Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for registering and coming along to today's webinar. I'd first like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land from which I'm speaking to you from. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands from which each of our online attendees are living and working from, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I wish to also extend that same respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us here today. By way of introduction, my name's Richard Wilson. I'm the Business Development Manager for Datacom IT. And firstly, please accept my apologies for the slight delay in starting today's webinar. We have had just some technical difficulties with my colleague Roger, who isn't here with us at the moment. He will be here hopefully shortly. We just had some problems in sharing his screen, but I'll introduce you to Christine Chettafanti, who is Datacom IT's marketing manager and who's been responsible for the setup and coordination of today's event. And our special guest is Gillian Allen, who is the local studies officer from the city of Ryde. So Gillian will be providing a bit of an overview of their implementation of Recollect and certainly how they're using Recollect to receive and manage those community contributions. As mentioned, with those technical difficulties, Roger would typically provide an introduction, an overview of Recollect to give you sort of some background on the solution before going to Gillian's presentation and showing you how they're actually using it in a real life environment. So we probably will go straight to Gillian, but before we do, I guess I just wanted to also give you a bit of a background information on Datacom IT and how it is that we're here today demonstrating Recollect to you. So for those that aren't aware, Datacom IT is an Australian-owned, fully Australian-owned private company. Been in operation now for well over 40 years, and our history was in micrographics, so archiving, preserving records onto micrographic content historically, but certainly in the most recent years we've become a very highly specialised provider of digitisation services. So we work very much in the GLAM sector, providing specialist digitisation services for all types of rare and unique material, such as microfilm, microfiche, of course, with our heritage, as well as bound and rare fragile material, utilising specialist document scanners, book scanners, as well as photographic digitisation of all types of prints, negatives, slides and transparencies. But Datacom IT are also a reseller of a whole range of different solutions that people use for both digital preservation and also Recollect, of course, which is our online collection management solution, which we're here to demonstrate to you today. Now, we're not the developers of that product. Recollect is in fact developed by a company not too dissimilar to Datacom IT from New Zealand, originally known by the name of New Zealand Micrographics. So they similarly also provided specialist digitisation services. And that solution was developed by them just well over 12 or so years ago. But back in 2019, it became a standalone company in its own right as a full software as a service solution. And at that time, Datacom IT came on board as its Australian partner for both the sales and implementation of the product. Recollect at that time have then also been focusing on the marketing and implementation of this product globally, and have had some great success over the last few years in the US. But of course, here in Australia, we've got multiple clients, some of which have joined us today. So thank you to those that have come along to see Gillian's presentation today and what they're doing with community contributions. And I'm just having a look. Roger still hasn't been able to join us. So again, apologies for not being able to give you that first introduction or overview of Recollect. But I'm going to hand over to you, Gillian, and get you to give a bit of an overview of how you're using the solution. Hopefully, by the time Gillian's been able to show you what they're doing with the solution, we'll then be able to revert back and have Roger introduce you to Roger and also show you a general overview of the Recollect product.
Not a problem. I hope everyone can hear me.
We can indeed.
Lovely. This is my very first video presentation, so bear with me, everyone, if I make some boo-boos. As said, I'm Gillian Allen. I'm from Ryde Library Service.
What can I share, though?
And
sorry, Roger, can you just maybe turn off your camera and and mute? So it looks like Roger's soon to join us. So sorry, Gillian, go ahead.
That's all right. Technical issues. Gotta love that.
Roger, just unmute, please.
We're ready to go?
Yep.
Yep. All right. So as said, I'm from Ryde Library here in Sydney. I'm just going to share my screen and show you a little bit of what we've been up to. So here we go. Let's give it a go. Okay. I am going to, from the beginning. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of our land, the Wallumedegal clan of the Darug Nation. We launched Recollect in October of 2024. We launched with around about 1,500 records. We now have over 39, closer to 4,000. I've been adding a few recently. One of the things we do love about Recollect, and there are many things that I could go on about why we love Recollect, but one of the wonderful things is the way it's a two-way street where community engagement is encouraged. We add information onto Recollect, and people in the community can give us their feedback on it via tags, recollections, edits, and they can also, of course, contribute. Currently, we've got about 69 community contributions. That is actually probably a little bit more. I did some this morning. And I have around about 180 all up. I just haven't had time to put them all on. When we set up Recollect, we were very focused on wanting to make this a community contributions website. We wanted the community to be involved in this from the very beginning. We didn't want to leave this to something we did later, because we figured that if we left it to something we did later would never come. So we were very focused in the beginning. We wanted it to be in front of people so that they could see it all the time. So when we set up our Recollect page, one of our focuses was to have a button, and you can see that one just up in the top right-hand corner. We wanted a button that appeared on every page. So we did ask Recollect if this could be done, and wasn't a customization, that they could just do it for us, which they could. And so that appears on every page, no matter where people move throughout the pages. When you click on that, it takes you through to a contributions page. Now, we spent an awful amount of time on this. I spent an extraordinary amount of time looking at other people's web pages, going through and seeing what people had written, what they'd phrased, how they'd done it. And I'm quite sure that for the public, they probably won't even take hardly any notice of this. This is, all for me. But what this page is supposed to do is just give people an overview of what it's all about and what they can contribute. Down the bottom here, we have a number of just little buttons that people can push. And those buttons are the ones that we consider the formats that most people are going to contribute to our website. So PDF, image, and video. That's not going to work now, of course. Oh, there we go. If I go into the actual website, you can see through here, we also have links to our referencing material. So we have a copyright page, which we spent an extraordinary amount of time on. And what we decided when we were thinking about what we wanted people to contribute is that we didn't want people to contribute with qualifications on their data. We didn't want them to say, yes, you can have it, but I need you to contact me if. We didn't want to have to go through all that trouble. So we have decided that we have 2 copyright qualifications on this. And so one of those is that the contributor can give City of Ryde the entire copyright of the image. So we can do what we want with it. We can put it on social media. We can put it in publications. We can make it available to the public. No restrictions. The other one we said was that it's a just a Creative Commons for non-derivative, no commercial. And so they retain any of the commercial rights for it, but we can use it for anything else that we need. So public research, we can use it in library publications and brochures. What we also specified within all of this, because we are in a social media world, is that regardless of whether they choose to give us their copyright or just keep their commercial copyright, is that we will have rights to put these images or documents or video onto social media platforms. So we have a Facebook page, and we have been putting these images up on Facebook every now and then to highlight our collection, to get some feedback, to promote ourselves. So we did want to make sure that people understood that these images won't be limited to just being on this website. They will be out in a social media setting as well. So we've got that. The other thing that we had linked on this page was our specifications for uploads. And this is a document that informs the public on what we recommend for uploads. So if we're talking images, we would like all images coming through to us unless they've come from a pure digital form, but if they're being scanned at a 600 dpi. So it's all those sorts of specifications. And that can be found here. It can also be found down the bottom in our user guides, where we have also user guides on how to use, how to contribute, how to add a tag, how to add a recollection, all that sort of stuff. So that is there. Once again, I spent an extraordinary amount of time on that, and I'm reasonably certain that 90% of the public probably will never tick on that, and I will not get things which are at 600 dpi. But that's all right. That is, yeah, that's my baby. What else do we have? So we've got that. We also have, I didn't mean to do that, apologies. I'm just going to move forward one. There we go. Once you've clicked on one of those buttons down the bottom, they're our little, our video or our PDF or our image, you will be brought to one of these pages. For those of you who already use Recollect, you're possibly familiar with it. For those of you who don't, this is where people will submit their image or their file, whatever that may be. It is slightly customizable. Some of it is set in stone, some of it's not. So this top bit at the beginning, where the wording is my wording. And once again, in this section, we have also added another link to those specifications of upload and those copyright documents as well. We've put them in as many places as we can so that members of the public don't come back to me and say, but I didn't know, you didn't tell me. If they do find their image online or on a social media post or somewhere else. Obviously, however, if somebody doesn't like it, we're happy to take them down. I should also mention too that although I do say that there is a specifications and we prefer them to be at 600 dpi, we do accept anything which is less than that. But obviously, the higher the DPI, the more use they are. The more you can see the detail within the image. So particularly for those images. When you come here, they're going to put in a title. They get to choose their upload image. Here is also where they will select that copyright that I mentioned. So they have the right to either tick that they're going to give it to us, or they are going to keep their commercial but give the rest to us. They also have a button there which says that it also, at the same time, that button also says they have the right to share this content for public access. So they're giving us those two, and then we have that Creative Commons license, which is applied to every image, regardless of whether they've given us copyright or not. If we go on to the next one, they get the point. Obviously, at that point, they can save it, they can send it in to us, they can save it, come back to it later, that sort of thing. But if they choose to continue and do it all in one hit, they come to this page. Also customizable. You can choose what you wish the contributors to add, the information that you want. In this case, we've selected things like subjects, locations, suburbs, that sort of thing. We've also got a donor details box down the bottom corner, which does actually say library use only, so that they're aware that this is not made public, the information that they're giving. And it's just another area where they can add their name, address, phone, contact details, should I need to contact them to say, hey, look, it's a great image, thank you very much, it's 300 DPI, I'm going to put it on the system, but could you please send me, you know, if you can possibly rescan, can I please have a 600 DPI image so I can replace this with a better copy. So we have that. Once again, slightly customizable to what you want. This is my workflow, and apologies for anyone who does these sorts of things on a regular basis. I don't. Somebody asked me once for a workflow recently from the South Australian library over in South Australia, the State Library, and so I came up with this. I don't know how good it is, but anyway, here we go. So once you've gone through and you've done all of that, if it comes to you, you get a choice of whether you're going to reject it or whether you're going to decline it completely. Now, reject just means they can try again. There might have been something wrong with it. It wasn't quite right. It didn't download right. Maybe it was a bit blurry, whatever. You might decline it because you have a copy of it already, or it's inappropriate, whatever. Once you've done that, you can add all your details to it. So you get a chance to then edit it and add it to a collection if you've already got it, all that sort of material. You can then approve it. Once that's happened, it is on Recollect and that's done. I have a slightly different, I sort of work a little bit beyond that. So these are not necessarily what you have to do, but for me, my workflow after that point is to open the item in the browse in Recollect. I then check to make sure I've done everything right, because invariably I haven't, and I've forgotten to add it to a collection or I've forgotten to add a subject heading. I'm not perfect. I do like to think I am, but I'm not. So are edits required? Yes, no. I will then save that if there are. Once I've saved it and I'm happy with the record and that's where it's supposed to be and it's showing where it's supposed to be, I actually then do some extra steps. So I will actually save myself a copy of a JPEG and I save it on an external hard drive. That is for my own archival purposes. And from there, I can actually have a look and see if the item is a 600 DPI or not. If we're talking images and it is 600 DPI, I then just go and add my metadata to it so that I retain all the information that person gave me on that image. And I also then create a TIFF of that. So I have a TIFF archival copy and I have a JPEG archival copy. It is a little extra work, but it means should anything happen to my copies, I have all that information that was given to me, and I have a TIFF archival copy if I need to use that at a later date. As I said, if it doesn't have, if it's not a 600 DPI, I will then take the opportunity at that point to and say, hey, look, it's great, thank you. I'm putting it on, it's on the system. If possible, could you scan it at a 600? And any future ones you give me, can you please scan at 600? I will probably email them that uploads, specifications for uploads so they can read it. And then hopefully they will email me or email me a copy, or they will just recontribute a 600 one for me. I'll add the metadata. I'll save it again as a TIFF. So that's my workflow. It does add a little bit extra into the time frame that I do for that, but I find that at least that way I will always have a backup copy and an archival copy. So one of the other things that we do, that I wanted to mention when we're talking about these contributions, is that you have to be really aware of not just what you have, but what you don't have. And by that I mean that when you create, for instance, and you can see on the screen, I've got a Granny Smith Festival collection, and Granny Smith Festival goes from 1957 to 2024. That's what it looks like when you go into the event. And I'm just going to click it and we'll go to the live. And hopefully there it is. What happens is, as I said, Granny Smith went from 1957 to 2024 currently. We haven't had our October one. That'll be in October this year. In 1957, 1958 and 1959, there was a festival. We have evidence of that. It didn't come back until, where are we, 2000 and, quote me, it's 40 years since we did this. So it's coming up to 40 years anniversary. came back in 1986. There you go. And that was reinstated by Ryde Council. But in those interim years between 1986 and that 1959, we actually don't know if they existed. We've never had time to go through things to find out whether there was ever a festival held. But we have created collections for those. And we ingested, when we did the ingest in our ingest period before this system went live, and we were doing all of this in Excel files, I dreamt them and breathed them for months, as Roger will know. They went in chronological order. So they started at 1957 on my Excel sheet and went down to whatever year I was currently at. And we created those at the very beginning, even though we didn't know if anything existed in these years. I can then hide them. So if I am in the, if I just across here and duck to Granny Smith, you'll see that I can hide these, and those ones that have no information in them, and they just, I've only got 2 pages because I've only got the information I have. So we are already considering the information that we don't have before we have it, we hope. If I had missed and I had put this information in later, so I had just done the ones that we knew, did 1957, 58, 59, and then straight on to 1986, and then today somebody gave me something for 1984, and I put it in today, that is going to go to the top of the page. So that will end up being on page number 1 in front of 2024. So then when I do October this year, coming up in 2025, I would have had it looking like 2025, 1984, 2024. So when you're thinking about your community contributions and your the way you set up events or items, magazines, whatever it is that has a chronological order, even for those that might be alphabetical and you want to go A, B, C, D, E, you want to start with Z, you want to end with A if you're ingesting, but you always want to put in the last one first and the first one last. But you want to put them all in first. Another example would be our Top Ryde Shopping Centre. So we've got this one, and we did this one in decades. So I've done this in decades because we don't have a huge amount of information. But once again, that allows me, and you can see I've got blank ones. They don't show for the public. And I can then, if I get a lot in the 1950s, I doubt it, but should I get a lot from 1950s, I can then create under that some sub-collections for 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, and so forth. But you really do have to think before you ingest and before you create these things. You can see, and I'll just really quickly duck into my community collections. So we have a box just on the front screen, and we've just called it it's our little collection called Community Contributions. Yeah, we have all of my contributions. So at the moment, it's currently up to, 76? I'm up to 76. But yes, and everything that goes in here is then contributed by the community. You can see I've got a various range of things from our national parks. There used to be a zoo at Lane Cove National Park. I had no idea. Through to the great big red fire truck, which probably would be WH&S no-no now. Somebody might fall off it, might scratch themselves, who knows. Lovely to look at. But yeah, so we've got a lot of that community contributions. We have worked really hard with it. As I said, it's front and centre. We've put out lots of posts on our Facebook page. We just had Seniors Week and we did several talks on it where we got some more material from that. We're pretty active in just trying to make sure that it's out there in the community, but it is something you have to work at. It's something that we realised that we had to do from the beginning, because as I said, if we'd left it, the amount of work that I do every day, and I'm nowhere near put everything on our system that we have. If I'd waited till we were ready, I don't know that I would ever be ready to do it. So it's something we, as I said, we started with. We decided it was important that the community be involved from the front with the new system. We didn't want them, I suppose the idea is we didn't really want them to see a new function of something that they'd already seen lots and lots of, but, oh, look, here's something new you can do with it. We wanted it all to be brand new in the beginning. But I'm happy to take any questions from people. I actually have no idea how long I've gone, Roger. I was going to take a load of the time when I started, but I didn't.
Okay.
So I might have gone for 10
Thank
minutes.
you for stepping into the breach.
No. But I'm happy to take questions at the end. I'm also happy if, Roger, if you want to put out my details on the chat and people can contact me that way. But yeah, it's been a wonderful site. We love it. We love the community aspect of it, and we love that we're actually getting some of that community feedback back for us. Back to you.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that, Gillian. And yes, normally we would, after your presentation, go straight to our audience and ask for questions. But now that we do have Roger here, I'm just wondering, are you okay?
I think so, Richard. We haven't tried this yet, but let's give it a go.
Let's have a try. So we will come back. And the other thing I didn't mention, because we were a little bit out of sync, is that normally we would ask people, and I see a lot of people are using the chat already, but if you do have a question that comes to mind, feel free to drop it in the chat on the right-hand side there now, and we will come back to this and run through those questions. And apologies also to, I noticed there are some people in the chat there that had some problems getting the audio and video working. Hopefully that resolved for them. But it looks like Roger is, looks like he's ready to go. And I didn't officially introduce him before, but Roger Mills is Datacom IT's digital preservation consultant and also our Recollect project manager. And of course, he's now going to give you that overview that we hope to do first off of Recollect and show you what its core functionality is, with, I guess, a little bit of a focus on those community contributions as well. So over to you, Roger.
All right, thanks so much, Richard. And yeah, apologies to everyone that having those technical issues to begin with. Yeah, I would like to say that I'm coming from Gadigal land of the Eora Nation. And that really it's fantastic to be back with our webinar series for 2025. And thank you for that fantastic presentation, Gillian. I learned so much, as I was just saying to someone in the chat bar there, about Ryde history and, you know, just about the Granny Smiths in themselves. I had no idea that Granny Smith apple, as I remember saying to you when we were doing the implementation, had no idea that they were from Ryde. It's one of the lovely things about my job is learning these little kind of bits of information about these unique areas that we implement Recollect in. So that was really fantastic. I was also going to just preface everything that I'm about to show you to, I'll try and keep it brief because I know we've run a little bit short of time now, but we do, when a client comes on to Recollect, we go through a series of workshops, their discovery workshops and training sessions, so that everything that Gillian was just saying there, you're trained in how to use Recollect, so by the end, when we hand it over to you, you're completely au fait with every aspect of it. And I think Gillian just demonstrated her great knowledge of Recollect in what we've been able to impart to her. So as I often do, anyone who's seen one of my presentations, I do like to start, and this was going to be starting the whole presentation today, but with a little bit of a quote, because I think this is kind of relevant, what Grant was saying here in 2000, that, you know, the local studies collection, you know, really is much more than just a material sitting upon shelves. And it's really about access, isn't it? You know, it's access, as they say there, that keeps it current in the community memory, rather than as a separated, isolated adjunct, or as I've seen when I was working at Northern Beaches Libraries, a lot of content before they got Recollect, sitting on empty, dusty council shelves. But Grant also goes on here to say, and I think this is really key too, that it's also about the participation of the community in the creation of the collection. You know, feeding your collection with its experience, reflections, and memories. And I think that's a really poignant statement, because if local studies collections are about anything, surely they're about the community in which the collection's based. So, you know, drawing on community experiences, reflections, and memories can really, as Gillian just showed, enrich your local study special collections to create what I've sort of described before as a community of, a warehouse of community knowledge, if you like. And of course, access is one of the three pillars that Recollect is built around, which is the others being discovery through descriptive metadata, as Gillian was just talking to before, and engagement with some of the functionality, such as this integrations with things like Google Map and 3D View and Matterport software. You can have virtual walkthroughs, a whole range of different tools that allow your community to not only upload and contribute content, but then when it's being moderated and they can view it on the site, they can actually engage with it physically with kind of digital tools as well. Now, I'm glad I saw your presentation there too, because I'm going to not cover everything I'm going to do here, because you've already covered that functionality, particularly with the upload functionality. So let me just go back to there. For some reason that's now to actually add an upload, you do need to log in to a site. Let me just do that here. And actually, Mountain Isa doesn't do that with that one. So let me just have a look at our own one here, Minor. And so the upload functionality is there on that left-hand side menu. And I'm not going to go into much more detail because I think Gillian covered it really, really well in that. I'm assuming everybody can see this, right? Someone's going to tell me otherwise.
Yes, Roger, but just the reason that didn't load is in the bottom right-hand screen. You just need to click on the allow this time or allow every time, I think.
Okay, cool.
And that should allow the other site you were looking to load.
Sure. So look, you can select what types of formats you want to upload, as Gillian's just described there. Another aspect of community contributions is in the comments, or what we like to call as recollections. And that can be done, again, you have to be a registered member to do this, but you can just simply go down to the recollections and add that. And if you're commenting on this photograph of Mount Isa's mines there, you could add any information you like there. You could add that to the story. That'll then go through to be moderated by the administrators. And they will either accept or decline or ask for more information about it. A simple comment like that, I assume an administrator, at least I would, probably say, well, I think we can get a little bit more information out of you than that. But that's essentially how that part of it works. And of course, other types of contributions is tagging. And tagging images is a really good example. Here you have I'm just going to shut that there. Here you have an image of a primary school and some teachers. And so if we show the tags there, these are all the tags that the community members have actually added to it. So they've contributed their knowledge to individual teachers that they're aware of that were at the Upper Hutt Primary School in 1956. But where a person in an image like this, and it doesn't have to be necessarily people in images, it can be an event, buildings in an event or at a location that people are identifying. But where there's something that's significant in it that already exists in the collection, you can create a hyperlink to that information item, where in this instance, you can have a look at Enid Wilson's own information page. I like to think of them information hubs, where you'll find out all the information about Enid's time at the school and all of the assets that are related to her time there as well, as backlinks that can just be clicked as well. So you might be interested in, particularly newspaper clipping about something that happened at the school at that time. That's that one there. And then suggested edits. This is another good way for your community to be able to feel empowered to contribute to the enrichment of your collections. We can also think about this as a bit of a right of reply. So in this instance, if you're one of the, let's say you're one of the people in this fantastic photograph, but actually you know that it was actually 20th of January 2024 instead, and you could just go up to the, oops, what's that going on there? Let's have a look at that. You click the suggested edits function, and then you can add that information in yourself. You could just say, well, that was in 2024 instead, and save that, and then that'll be moderated. That information will be moderated as well. for some reason, it's not been my day today, I have to say.
Might be that pop up again, Roger, behind the screen, maybe.
Yeah. Crowdsourcing. Now, this is another thing that Gillian sort of touched on here. I just wanted to highlight a few different instances of crowdsourcing. Here's an example of Picture Ipswich, and I think Melanie and Tanya, hi Tanya and Melanie, if you're attending, they've done a fantastic job in creating their crowdsourcing page and all of the areas that they want information on. And this is basically how to become a Picture Ipswich PI or photo investigator. And you can click any of these, but desperate and dateless, we've all been there. What you see first of all here is some information about what they want you to provide to them in the way of the photographs taken, who's in the photograph, fashion, hairstyles, and all the rest of it. And then you can click down into the assets that have been added to this information page and say, well, these have all got dates. So I actually know I'm the great-great-grandson of Arthur Norman Gillis, and so I can maybe add a date to this photograph because I've seen it in the family collection, and it's simply a matter of going to the suggested edit. And there's all of these different fields that Tanya and Melanie have set up that if you've got information about, you can contribute to. But in the end, you could just add that information there, that date was actually 20th of January 1930. And you can save it, and then that will be submitted to Tanya and Melanie to then moderate and update their collection with. Again, another example of enriching those collections. Here's another example, this time with Picture Western Downs. This is a whole range of mystery images, which they don't have very much information on at all. So you can really set yourself up with content that you've already got that you want to use the local community as a crowdsourcing resource to help you add that information to. And again, you could just click any of these images, go straight up to the suggested edit and add that information into the suggested edit page. So really fantastic functionality there. The last of this crowdsourcing functionality I want to show you, and I touched on this before, I know for anyone who's seen these presentations, is the OCR transcription. This is actually in the image view. So on that left-hand side, you've got all the different tools. We might just make that a little bit bigger so we can read some of it. And in here, we can just show text transcription. You can see that the OCR layer hasn't done too well on transcribing that. It's got caught some of it, but not all. But what we can do then is we can go to transcription and just go edit. And then you can actually start editing or adding that information directly from this handwritten letter from this soldier in 1944 to a friend of his. I'll just put the first line in there, Dear Gert. And once that has all been transcribed into your Recollect site, it becomes immediately searchable from the homepage, on which we just save that. And there you go. Speaking to numerous Recollect clients who have a volunteer base, often they can't get enough of this type of thing. So it's a really good way to outsource and crowdsource enriching your collections in this way. I wanted to touch on this because it's one thing that I haven't really ever touched on in previous demonstrations, which is the My Private collections. And this is probably considered one of the engagement functionalities. So let's take this image here, for instance. You can obviously download the image, but if we star this, we can actually add that to my collection. And if I go into my collection, we will then see that item in my collection. Really useful for researchers. If you're doing some browsing and using a site for some research, then it's really useful to build up a whole series of collections. But people just like to do it based on their own browsing. And of course, you can then create new collections and move them across and create these wonderful collections of material that sometimes you've donated, but your friends have donated. And for collection managers and administrators, this is the sort of thing that we found administrators reporting back to us, that the more that they open up this level of engagement, the more that finding that their site stats are going up. In other words, that people are really engaging with the site. They're seeing themselves in that site. They're seeing themselves represented in the site and then using it as part of their sort of everyday activities. I'm going to just touch on one of these, which is the image view and georeferencing functionality. Just in terms of being able to, I've just put that up to 200%, but if we go up to 100% there, this is no doubt being done by our colleagues in NZMS because of the quality of it. But you can see just how, at a really close-up view, the type of detail that you can get from a high-quality scan like that. And of course, with that integration of Google Street View, we can just jump straight into the geo-coordinates of that and have a look at that old map. From when is the old map from? It doesn't say that. If we just add that there, and then we can see that part of the map in its actual location itself. Beautiful, beautiful New Zealand. Having worked for Datacom T and Recollect for some years, I've never been to New Zealand. Hint, Recollect. There we go. Let's talk about sort of further engagement here with the virtual and 3D view from a browser. I know I've touched on this before for others who've attended these webinars before, but Recollect's also integrated with the Matterport software. And the Wesley College Archives and Art Collections have done a fantastic job, particularly with this one item, which I think really clearly highlights how good it is. You can sort of do a virtual walkthrough and say, oh, I'm really interested in that painting, have a look at it, and then you can just literally click and get more information about the painting itself, and then decide you want to go for a walk around the exhibition and see what else is on the wall there and find out more information about it. You can also view three-dimensional content from the browser without having to download any third-party software. And here's an example of a little blue penguin, again from the Auckland Museum. And it really is just as simple as moving the item around that you get that 3D view. What I love about this is the way that you can see the shadow of the beak on the actual bird itself. Just fantastic. But again, really useful for anyone who's doing any research on particular items. If you're interested in the sort of contours and textures of a little penguin like this, it's really, really useful. Of course, Recollect is not only about discovery, access, and engagement with digital collections, but also with physical collections as well. And that can just be records or those physical collections. So here's an example of the City of Sydney Archives and History Resources, where they've put in a number of their joint application building certificates. And what they've done here is just imported trim data straight into the record itself. They did build up some code to be able to do that, so it's not a simple operation by any means, but it is possible to bring in and ingest through spreadsheets as well. And it's really just demonstrating these old JA applications of the City of Sydney. If we go to the microfiche and microfilm at Moreton Bay, here's an example of actual physical items in a collection. And you can see this as a record there. But if we go to the storage location at Strathpine Library, and then you've got your different storage locations for these items. You can go to the local studies room, and then even down to the map cabinet number, and even then down to the drawer. So really, really good way to map your physical collections in Recollect without necessarily always being dependent on digital assets. One of the last ones I'll just show you here is the State Library of South Australia. This is the way that Recollect can do what we describe as circular linking. So it's basically a way that you can link items in your collection with your library management system. So that is just done through the SA catalogue. So it'll take us straight to the OPAC in the library. So if you're actually looking at this item in the library, you've got all of your information, your retrieval, when you could actually have a look at this item. But obviously there's no image of it there. So you could connect to the digital collections, which is Recollect, and it'll take you straight back to the Recollect page. And then you can kind of learn all about that particular item through the linked metadata that Recollect is so well known for. So if you wanted to look at other treasures of the State Library of South Australia, or the literature research collection, or other mechanical toys, it'll bring all of those items up. We've got 10 minutes left. I might just jump quickly into a little look under the hood. What you're looking at here is basically an item template in Recollect, and that maps across to the display view all of the metadata on that right-hand side. And that's what we do with you in the workshops, this discovery phase workshop. We do 2 data workshops where we'll look at your data exported from a previous system, and talk you through how you want it set up in Recollect, whether it's Dublin Core or MARC or even the Australian Serious system. We can talk you through how that's actually done. If we click straight through into this item itself, highly configurable metadata templates. This is completely blank when you get your site instance. We do that data mapping in the data workshops. We set up your data template. And even if you decide, once you've set it up, that you don't want location there, you want it above decade, it's just really as simple as moving it like that. And then you can just save and exit. Along the left-hand side here, you've got all of your admin panel choices, managing content, managing your users, where you can create access control lists, where you provide access to content for time-limited periods. Maybe you want some of your volunteers to do some metadata editing, or maybe there's some confidential information that you don't want anyone to be able to view at all, and that's where you can set all of that up. Of course, that's a fleeting view of the back end, and there's much more to it than that. Part of those workshops that we take you through are looking at your personas and how you think they would likely want to discover, access, and engage with your content. And we do those workshops in terms of the placement of widgets on the page. I think I'm just going to stop here and summarize where we're all at here. So Recollect is a software as a service hosted by AWS here in Sydney. One question we get asked quite a lot is about the storage capacity. With the enterprise level, you get a terabyte of storage, but it is unlimited. You can upgrade from there. And there's an unlimited amount of users as well. And those users, of course, as I was just saying, you can apply role-based access privileges to those users. Recollect's integrated with Trove through OAI PMH metadata harvesting. And I'll just leave you with this last comment, which Richard may have mentioned at the beginning and where I was trying to log in. We are really more than happy to have a discussion with anyone here who would potentially like a more tailored presentation to one of their local studies, special collection groups in the library. Where that normally starts with a call and just kind of talking through what you've got. And that gives me an opportunity to tailor the presentation much more to your particular collections, and we're more than happy to do that. So if that sounds like something you'd like to take up, just give me an email, roger.mills@datacomit.com.au, and more than happy to set that up. But I think this might be a good stage to stop and give you a chance to ask Gillian or myself any questions.
Great. Thanks very much for that, Roger. And yes, we have got a number of questions here, so I'll review through those and pose them to both Gillian and Roger, or answer them myself if it's relevant. But one of the first ones there is actually just a shout out to Gillian from Jill Rogers saying, great message. Thank you very much. Don't wait until you're ready. And obviously that's a big learning, because if you do, you may never get there, I guess, is the takeout from that.
Yeah, don't wait. Just get in there and do it.
A question from Laura Hendrick. I think I missed one note. It is, yes, Gillian, do you get donations that you happen to already have, and how do you handle that?
We haven't as yet. Good question, but we haven't as yet. All the ones that we have had are unique. We do have instances where we'll have 5 photos of the same thing. And, it's literally like, snap, snap, snap. It's basically the same photo, slightly different angle. I might only take 1 or 2 of those. I don't necessarily need 5. But it's just a matter in that decline stage. You get an option when you decline your images or your contributions to actually write the person a message. And so it's just a, thank you for your contribution. However, at this stage, we already have a copy of this, so forth, or you've already given us several shots of the same thing, blah, blah, blah. So it's just a nice little message through to them saying, thank you, we appreciate it. If you've got anything more, please send them through.
Great, thank you. And I did skip across a message there from Caitlin Tunstall, just asking whether it's integrated at all with the LMS or library website. And I guess just towards the end of Roger's presentation, he was showing the State Library of South Australia and how there was a linkage. So it is not deeply integrated, I guess, with the LMS, but it is possible to have those links, or what we call reciprocal links or circular links between the two sites. So in the LMS, you're able to see the collection, click on a link, take you through to the actual visual representation or the digitized image of that content in Recollect. And there is a level of integration as such with your current website. So you will get a custom domain name that can be a subdomain of your existing website. And as you may have noticed through Roger's presentation, there is some updates are able to be done to the Recollect site to sort of replicate your own look and feel of the website. So although it is a separate website, it is very much integrated and looks kind of seamless in that regard. Going down to the next question, Helen Wolf from Kerry, just what is your stance on the publicly naming people in photos? And so I guess that's for Gillian.
Look, we are happy to do it. If somebody makes a comment to us and says, can you please take it down, we're also very happy to do that too. We don't see that much differently than if we had a photograph in our filing cabinet just over here and we've got it labelled family photo, John Smith, June Smith, child, Chelsea Smith, or whatever else. It's really no different. The only difference, this is a more open source version of that. But once again, we are very happy to take down material that people don't want, or information that personal information that people don't want to be visible to the world.
Great, thank you. A question from Bess Gilmore-Lim, just about whether there'll be a recording of this, and just for everyone else as well who perhaps might have missed because of some audio and video problems earlier on. We will be sending out a link to everyone with a recording of the video of today's webinar, so you will be able to rewatch anything that you may have missed or want to share with other people. Question for Roger I've just got LG, but building on the information about the forward planning collection folders, how would you manage this in a consortia of libraries?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one, because we've done some Recollect implementations where we worked with different business units in either councils or universities. And so what we can do is we can set up a static page of collection items for each business unit. So the same could be applied to different libraries within a consortium if that was applicable to your particular circumstance. So you could each library could have their own page and their own collection and group of widgets as well.
Right, thanks, Roger. And a question here for Gillian from Monique. Is it Buckbatch? Hi, Gillian. Do community contributions remain suppressed until after editing, adding metadata as per the workflow?
Okay, here goes my workflow. The metadata that you add on before you've approved it, and that's the metadata that's going to end up on Recollect, as in the information that's on the left, the right-hand side of the page on an image. That is, once you hit approve, that all becomes live. The metadata that I add to the image is the metadata on the actual image itself when you go to the properties of the image, and that is for my own personal use, so that should that information suddenly become discombobulated from the image and so forth, I still will have that in one place somewhere else. So I don't have an image then that becomes a useless image because, well, not useless as such, but becomes one of Ipswich's desperate and dateless because all of a sudden you've lost all the info that goes with it. So it depends on what type of metadata you're talking about. But as I said, the information that you put in before you approve it, and then after you edit it, once it's gone live, that's all the information on Recollect. The information I add to the metadata on the actual image is for me personally.
Great, thank you. A question from Danielle Trewatha, just how much can a client customise the design? So as sort of we were talking about there before, yes, that website and the look and feel and colours and branding can all be updated, and as well as how the data is laid out in terms of widgets and accessing the data can all be customised. Another question here from Kim Williams, missing some of the earlier presentation, but with the community contributions, are they directly uploaded by community or is it done by library staff?
Me or you, Roger? I'm happy to take it.
I think we've got a number of questions, so I'll just quickly answer that. So yes, that's uploaded by the person that's making that community contribution, and then it's approved or ingested.
So it's moderated. Yeah. Well, actually, libraries can choose either. They can actually go straight up, or they can be moderated. But most libraries and clients decide to moderate their contributions for good reason.
And we've got a question from Colin Lynham. Are there cases of learned society collections, e.g. the Royal Society of Victoria? I don't know, I guess, Roger.
I can't think of any, Colin, off the top of my head, but if you wanted to get in contact with us, I could certainly explore that topic with Recollect. There may be some in New Zealand or some related collections that I'm not aware of with Recollect, but certainly none off the top of my head. But yeah, give us an email, roger.mills@datacomit.com.au, and I'm happy to explore.
Thanks, Roger. We've got a follow-up question here from Danielle, and just in the interest of time, Danielle, we'll reach out to you, and we're more than happy to arrange a personal demonstration to show you some of those site stats and visitor numbers. We're just getting towards the end of our time, so just running through. We've got one last question here. From Monique, again, not being an archivist, more information about planning to keep things displaying in logical sequence will be helpful, as briefly discussed in reference to the Granny Smith Festival. So I guess I'm just looking at the time there again. Perhaps, Monique, we could arrange to provide you with a personal demonstration and go into that in more detail, because we are right on our sort of 1 hour time, and we do like to try to keep them running to that time and not take up everyone's day any further than we need to. So again, thank you all very much for coming along and joining our webinar today, and of course, special thank you to Gillian for obviously presenting. It was a fantastic presentation. Thank you, Gillian, on what you're doing with community contributions. I'm sure they're proving to be a valuable asset to both the library and the community. So thank you for coming along and sharing that with us. And apologies again to everyone for a little hiccups there with our presentation, but hopefully you got a good overview of both Recollect and also what the City of Ryde are doing with their community contributions. So thank you all very much, and we will send out an email to everyone with a link to a recording of this so you can catch up on anything that you did miss early on. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Bye.